Hi, my name is Miriam Naiman, a senior advisor in the Post-Aliyah Answers and Advocacy Department. I am honored to present today's webinar featuring Chana Zweiter, a special needs consultant. Although one of my specialties at Nefesh B'Nefesh is assisting families with both adults and children to navigate the special needs system, Chana is going to go through step by step very important information for you to have a deeper understanding of how to navigate the system and finding the best placement for your child. Please feel free to contact me directly with any questions that you may have at answers@nbn.org.il.
Hi, I'm Chana Zweiter. Shalom from Jerusalem. Hi from Jerusalem. I'm greeting you today at the offices of Nefesh B'Nefesh because I'm surrounded here by advisors and professionals who will be helping you with the Aliyah process, making sure that that process is successful. But we know that process is very, very complex, and it makes it even more complex when you're trying to make Aliyah with children with special needs. That's where I come in. I am the partner in finding you the services and the benefits that will help you find those services for your children. Would like to define some terms. When we talk about special needs, I'm going to refer to today in this particular seminar the children who may be anywhere on the autistic continuum, who may have developmental disabilities, and we know that's a continuum, learning disabilities, ADHD, physical disabilities, visual, hearing. There's a whole gamut. I'm not going to discuss each one individually. You'll have an opportunity to ask those questions about the category in general in the Q&A and the question and answer period that we'll have afterwards. And if you have specific questions about your child, something specific to you, my email address appears right in front of you now, chanazweiter@gmail.com, and we'll review that. That'll appear again at the end also, okay? So those are the questions that you should feel free to send to me. And before we go on, I want to say also that we're dealing today with children who are school-age children that here in Israel is from 3 to 21. I will touch upon children who need early intervention, but I won't go into the depth about that. I will touch upon that. And in a different webinar, we'll talk about children or your children or adults 21 and older. And the other thing that I want to say is that we have a really good system here. And our job, my responsibility, is to help you find your way in that system and to navigate the system with you. And today we'll be talking about the process, and the team players will help you with that. These are the team players that are going to help you. You are the captain of the team. That's why you, the parents, appear on top. Because although we know how to guide you, we know what services are available, we have the contact. You are the ones that know your child the best. So we're depending on you to help you with that. I will tell you soon how you can help us with that. Okay? When you're ready to make Aliyah, the first step is that you're going to turn to Nefesh B'Nefesh and you're going to say, I live in wherever, and I'm coming in Aliyah with 3 children, 1 child, etc., etc. I'd like to live, if you know where you're going to live, and I have a child who needs special education or is in such and such setting, such and such setting in the United States. The Nefesh B'Nefesh professional or advisor that you're going to be hooked up to is going to tell you, you know what? He's going to tell you 2 things. And the 2 circles, the Jewish agency and the Chana, probably should be side by side. Because the person might tell you, the advisor might say to you, you know what? If you have a child who needs the benefits of special education, Chana is our go-to professional. So here's Chana's email address, and please contact her. She's going to guide you. She's going to take you by the hand and walk you through that process. They're all going to tell you at the same time. They're going to tell you at the same time that you need to apply to the Jewish agency. That has nothing to do with this particular point with special needs. You need to apply to the Jewish agency. You need to fill out the questionnaires and do everything that they tell you, which your Nefesh B'Nefesh advisor is going to tell you, okay? Come to me, and you're going to probably receive an email from you saying, oh, Aliyah, Yitzmotin, whoever it is, Miriam Naiman referred me to you, and I have a child who is 10 years old who is in such and such setting here in the United States, and I'm just wondering whether or not we're going to be able to make Aliyah at all. I'm going to say to you at this point, I'm very happy to meet you. I'm very happy to receive your email, and I'd like to get to know you and your child better, and I'd like you to know the process better and what we need to do to help your child get into the school and to get the benefits that he or she needs. Before you do that, I'm going to send you a profile document, a one-pager, where you're going to tell me a little bit about your child, age, what services he or she is getting now, what you're looking for here, where you would like to live, and after that, we're going to set a time to have a Zoom meeting. Okay, I'm going to, along the way, I'm going to tell you all about that, what you need afterwards, and what that we're going to do in the Zoom meeting and what we're going to need afterwards. But I'm going to introduce you along the way to government agencies. That means that there are government agencies like the Ministry of Education and Misad Rebacha, the special and health insurance, et cetera, that you're going to need, and they're going to partner with us in this process. We're going to get to that later. And the municipal representatives. What I mean by that is that if I define it in U.S. terms, so we have a national government and we have a local government. So in Israel, we could go with national, and Israel, maybe in the United States, you might call it federal. We're national and municipal. And on the municipal level, you're going to have each municipal government has an Aliyah representative, at least most. Modi'in, Beit Shemesh, Jerusalem, Medina, they all have municipal representatives, and at some point I'm going to hook you up with them, because I can do things that they can't do, and they can do things that I can't do. Okay, that's the team, and that's the process. We're going to go one to one. And now I'm going to introduce you to what we're going to do with each of those team members and what that process actually is. There are 4 government agencies that are basically responsible for your child. Most responsible for your child at this age is the Ministry of Education, and within the Ministry of Education is the Department of Special Education. I want to say something also. Throughout this presentation, I use some Hebrew, and I do translate some of the terms from Hebrew to English and English to Hebrew, but not all of them. I've only focused on those that you really need to know. So when you hear the terminology, Misad Chinuch, you know that that's the Ministry of Education. When you hear Chinuch Miuchad, you know that that's special education. When your child from 3 to 21 makes Aliyah, he or she is under the umbrella, is a responsibility of the Ministry of Education and the Department of Special Education. We will get to what they're going to do and how they're going to help us soon, okay? You're going to be connected to a Kupat Cholim. Everybody is connected to a Kupat Cholim is a healthcare provider. Everybody has a healthcare provider. Your child, when you choose the kind of healthcare provider for your child or for the family, you should look for the kinds of doctors that you need and see if they are in clinics near your home. So, for example, if I would need an endocrinologist and I lived in Jerusalem, or I need an endocrinologist and I live in Beit Shemesh, I would see which Kupa has one nearby, if that's at all possible. The other agency that is going to be government agency that's responsible for your child is going to be Rebacha. Not as much as Chinuch Miuchad, not as much as special education, which again, from 3-21, as long as they're eligible to be in the education system, the Rebacha is going to give you is the Ministry of Welfare, and they're going to be giving you services that are not covered by the school system. We'll talk about that later, as well as national insurance, Bituach Leumi. That's an additional government agency that supplements, does things that the others don't, and we'll get to that in a little bit, okay? I want to tell you about the special education system. Remember, I said that is the primary agency that's responsible for your child, as long as your child is eligible for school, which in this country, similar to the United States and other parts of the world, are from 3 to 21. At 21, the child ages out. So what I'm about to tell you are the different kinds of special education opportunities. And it's important for me to explain that all these opportunities are found in all the different education streams. In Israel, we have a public school system. In the United States, the public school system discerns between religious. As soon as it's religious, it can't be public. That's not true in Israel. So the public school system is also addresses people whose religious expression is different. So we have Mamlachti, that's the general public school system. Mamlachti Dati, that's religious. Mamlachti Dati Torani, which is a little, I don't like to say more religious, but it's different religious that puts more emphasis on Jewish education, and they separate the children earlier on, separate the girls and the boys early on in their education. There's a Kita, and then there's the Haredi system, the more, the ultra-Orthodox. And within all these systems, you will find these categories of special education. There's a self-contained schools. If your child has serious educational needs, a child has severe developmental disabilities, a child could be best served because in a self-contained school, just like in the United States, then they're gonna place the child, and we'll talk about placement later, in a self-contained school. Remember that in Israel, just like in other parts of the country, we have a movement towards inclusion, but we're going to make the choices that are best for your child, even if the child is in a more inclusive environment in the United States. We have parallel special education classes, and here I use two terms. One is called a Kita Mekademet, and one is called a Kita Tikshoret. A Kita Mekademet is a small, sometimes they call the Kita Ktana, a small class in the regular school. You have a regular school and there are small classes, up to 10 children with a particular evaluation, a particular challenge. There are Kitot Makadmot for children who are on the, who have ADHD. There are Kitot Makadmot for children who have particular kinds of learning disabilities. There are Kitot for children who have certain kinds of behavioral issues, emotional issues, and those are called Kitot Makadmot. In a Kita Makademet, you have about 10 children, up to 10 children. You have a main teacher, you have a sayat, an assistant, and you also usually have others. When others, like sometimes there's a chayelet, sometimes there's a bat shirut, people who do their army service or their country service in this particular area. Besides that, when your child is in a Kita Mekademet, the child will also get their paras. They'll get physical therapy and occupational therapy and speech therapy, whatever is pertinent and pertinent to that particular child or important to that particular child. Another kind of parallel class is called the Kita Tikshoret, and Kita Tikshoret is specific to children who are on the autistic spectrum, okay? And what the school system tries to do is to make it as homogeneous as possible. We know that there's a continuum. There are children that are higher functioning, or may have Asperger's, or other expressions of, and cannot be mainstreamed, cannot be included all the time. And they're in a particular, they try to make that a homogeneous class for those kinds of children. They're children who are on the spectrum who are quite bright, and the children who have a complex evaluation so that they have learning disabilities as well. They may be in a different class. So there's different cities and different municipalities tries to make them as individualized as possible, and it is the same kind of structure, up to 10 children with one teacher and an assistant, and usually some other people, some other helpers in that particular class, okay? The advantage of the parallel class, if your child is eligible, is that the child can be included, can be mainstreamed in the homeroom class, like the quote-unquote regular class, as appropriate. If the child is very good at math and can can learn in the homeroom class, not the special little class, then the child will be in that class, sometimes with an assistant sitting with that particular child. If the child is not capable or able at this particular point to be included in the academic areas, sometimes they'll go on trips together, may have gym together, they may have recess together, etc., etc. So that's the advantage of a parallel class. A resource room teacher, let's say your child has minimal types of learning challenges, so the child is in the regular classroom and has a mora metakenet, a teacher that will pull them out, we call it in some of our U.S. terminology, a resource room teacher. And sometimes the child needs that extra help in the classroom, and in that case, that child can have a shadow or a sayat. Okay, how do you choose these classes? I'm going to explain that to you. How do I know what's good for me? How do I know what's good for my child? Who makes those decisions? I'm going to deal with that in a few minutes. Okay, I said to you before that one of the other agencies that is responsible for your child is Misrad Revacha, the Ministry of Welfare. They're in charge of recreation, residence, which is unlikely until the child is 21, until your son or daughter is 21. But we do know there are residences for children who have serious challenges. There's a residence for children who are autistic, that are on the autistic spectrum in Beit Shemesh, with boys from 14 to 18. I know that sometimes children need to live in residences for their sake and for their family's sake, so that there are residences for them, and that is covered under the Ministry of Welfare. When I say recreation, I want to go back to that, is that if your child is in school, Ministry of Education is responsible to cover the costs and to give your child recreation until let's say until 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, and then the Ministry of Welfare kicks in, and either the school may have the recreational activities, but the Ministry of Welfare will cover the costs of that. Or you can find those activities in different ma'onot, which are like clubs or recreational centers in different parts of the city. So that's where the Ministry of Revacha comes in. And the last one is the early intervention centers, which I touched on at the very beginning. So I'm going to give you a few words about that. Children who are born and are suspect, or maybe not suspect, that are already evaluated with special needs at birth. We know that early intervention helps them advance. So there are early intervention centers. They are not under the aegis of the Ministry of Education, even though they may go up to 3 years old, but they are under the Ministry of Welfare. To access them, you would have to go to a Machon Lehitpatchut Hayeled, which is a developmental center, a child developmental center, which you'll find in all the cities. That is really under the aegis of the health centers, the Kupot Cholim, but they will evaluate your child, and then they'll tell you how to apply to Bituach Leumi, which we're going to get to in a minute, how to apply to Bituach Leumi, and then they will help you, guide you to which early intervention center is appropriate for your particular child. Just like the school system is quite individualized, so are the early intervention centers. There are early intervention centers for children who already are defined or evaluated to be on the spectrum, and there are early intervention centers for children who have other disabilities, the cognitive disabilities. And we know that sometimes early on, when children are very young, it's hard to really pinpoint exactly what's going on, and that's part of the tatzpit. Tatzpit is observation. They will observe the child, and they will be able to then guide the child into a more appropriate setting. We touched on Bitur Leumi as one of the government agencies that are available to help children with special needs. You may know, somebody might have told you, that you have to wait a year to apply to Bitur Leumi. That's only for people who are over 21, okay? You come in Aliyah, you have a child who's somewhere on the spectrum. Child is in a special education, was placed in a special education system, and but the child needs more. That's what Bitur Leumi is looking for. Bitur Leumi is saying, well, the Ministry of Education, the education system is responsible for your child. He's under 21. But if you can prove, and honestly, of course, that there's the Hebrew word for it is tlut, that means dependent, that sure, the school system is giving me X number of hours of, let's say, occupational therapy, but my child got more hours in the United States and is dependent on those hours. I cannot send my child home to be alone at home. I need to have a caregiver there, a babysitter, because the child is, maybe in danger. Maybe will touch the stove. Maybe do things that are dangerous for the child. Can't travel by himself. So the two things that Bitur Leumi does, if we can prove to them, and there's a process of applying to Bitur Leumi, getting the right evaluations together and making a case that my child is dependent on these extra services. I'm working with a child, for example, now called Maid Aliyah, is in a wonderful, wonderful Kita Tikshoret. She's in junior high school. She also has dyslexia. It's hard for her to learn. And when she was in the United States, she had a computer program where she would feed it the text, let's say her science text or something, and it would read back to her. She needs that in order to be able to succeed here in Israel. So we made a case within our case to Bitur Leumi that we need that, and that costs money. So there are two ways that Bitur Leumi helps. One is by giving you a stipend. They determine how much dependence the child gets, and they will put that, once if they approve, then they will deposit that in your bank account monthly, and sometimes they will give you a caregiver. In other words, somebody to take care of your child. But that has to be with children who are more seriously disabled. I want to talk to you a little bit about Kupat Cholim. We talked about the health providers, okay? Again, you should go to a Kupat Cholim that's a health provider that's going to meet your needs. Meaning, again, if you come in Aliyah and your child needs an endocrinologist, you need a cardiologist, whatever it is, do your homework before you come in Aliyah. Find out what is available, which Kupa has those particular doctors, those special doctors in your area. I mean, sometimes you might have to come to the quote-unquote the big city to get it, but you should be able to try to identify as much as possible what's close to you. And that's the general health. You have a cold, you have corona, unfortunately, whatever it is that you need to, or bronchitis, whatever it is, you go to your general health. And again, if you have that particular health need before you come, that health challenge, check it out, and that's how you're going to choose. There are 4 major health providers. Your advisor will help you with that, but there are 4: Clalit, Leumi, Maccabi, and Me'ochadet. The next category that's covered under Kupat Cholim is the Hitpatchut HaYeled, the Child Developmental Center that I spoke to you a little bit before about in the context of discussing early intervention centers. So they are for early intervention centers, but if at any point your child could be in 4th grade, your child could be in 5th grade, and there's a question about whether or not she's not keeping up with her work. It seems to me the teacher says that she has maybe she's just not concentrating. She's having difficulty concentrating. Whatever it is, the Child Developmental Center, which are attached to Kupat Cholim, your healthcare provider will be able to provide therapies and first evaluations and then therapies that they need. And the last is Biut HaNefesh. One category of disability or challenges that some people come in is mental health challenges. And each Kupa has a special division for mental health challenges. And when you have to be accepted, and you will have to fill out a questionnaire, and you'll have to attach some evaluations that you're going to bring, and I'm going to help you understand and know which evaluations you have to be in a minute, and you're going to apply. And they are able to provide you with a social worker, with a psychiatrist, with a psychologist, and sometimes then help you get the kind of services from, let's say, Bitur Leumi, the national health insurance that we spoke about before, or Rebacha. They're the ones that can manage and can direct you to that. Okay, back to school placement. Okay, you're becoming an Aliyah, your child needs to go, okay, let's take a child is in a special school in the United States or in a special class. Child is on the spectrum. What do? How do I get a similar setting for him, or what is a setting that's appropriate for him or her here in Israel? So I'm going to tell you that the first thing you're responsible, remember I told you that you were the captain of the team, so as the captain, you are responsible to get the evaluations, which you need to get, and they need to be not older than 6 months old, because children change. So the school system, the Jewish agency, whoever is going to ask you for those evaluations will not accept evaluations that are old. When I say 6 months old, and sometimes you plan to come on Aliyah in August and you don't come until, let's say, December. So then you go, what am I going to do? Go have these done again? No. 6 months from the time that you apply to Nefesh B'Nefesh, and you apply within not more than 6 months later, you have to have these evaluations. What kinds of evaluations? You need a psychological, not just a report from your psychologist. And I have a list of tests that I could send to you when you're ready to, and you hook up with a psychologist that's going to do that battery of evaluations. I can send that psychologist to listen. I do that all the time. You need, for example, intelligence. You need executive functioning. You need behavior. These are all the tests you need to test for autism, even though there may not be a suspicion that the child is on the spectrum. And so you need to have, that's a psychological. You need a pedagogical. That means my child is studying now in, let's say, the Sinai system, and has been in the system for 3 years or 4 years. I need a report. We need reports from the teacher. And again, I have guidelines for that. What we need from the teacher, how the child is in school, is there respect for teachers, how is his relationship or her relationship with peers, etc. Is she able to keep up with the work? What kinds of special attention the child it needs. And the last is medical. Medical meaning if your child sees a psychiatrist, it could be a psychiatric report. If he or she sees a neurologist, it could be a neurological, or you're seeing a developmental pediatrician. It's not your go-to pediatrician when the child has a cold or strep throat or something. It's somebody who's been tracking the development of the child and who is in charge of the child's particular challenges. Again, I have guidelines for that. So when you get to that and your psychiatrist or your doctor needs that, you come to me. It's very, very important for me to emphasize that even though we hate to say how important diagnoses are important for placement. All these papers are not just paperwork. The school system takes them seriously, and they want to see diagnoses. That means at the end of the psychological, as you know, when they do a summary, there is a code for autistic spectrum. There's a code for ADHD. There's a code for cognitive or developmental disabilities. They need to see that, and they need to see it on a medical report as well. The psychiatrist, neurologist has to say, child has diagnosed as autism. They need, particularly with autism, they need a medical and a psychological with clear diagnoses. Once we get these evaluations, we send them off to a translator, and the translator, then we send them to the school system. Okay? In the meantime, you saying to me, I'm going to come on a pilot trip in February. I've written a summary of evaluations, even if they're not the updated ones. Whatever you have sent me, I'll send it to a school system in Manala if you're going to go there. If you're planning to live there or you're exploring that possibility, I'll send it to the Chemish if you're exploring that possibility. And I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to call the school X, because that school specializes in the needs that your child's needs. So I'm going to call and make an appointment for you to visit that school, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll do that as much as possible. Some school systems don't let you do that. They're not as open and easy at that. But I have a lot of connections, so I'm able to get I get a fair amount of appointments for you. And at the end, you can say, whoa, I would like to go to school X. And I'll say, that's very nice, but you're not the last word in that. And the last word in that is what we call a vadati fyun. And I did define this, or give you the Hebrew terminology, because you're going to hear it. Vadati fyun, sometimes fyun bizakaut, which is eligibility. It's a committee meeting. And we're going to go you are invited to the committee meeting. You can only get a committee meeting when you make Aliyah. So there's a little bit of a catch-22 here. If you want to make Aliyah in the summertime, you are, according to law, eligible to have a vadati fyun right away, but it doesn't always happen, because this one's on vacation and that one's on vacation, where they're getting ready to start the school year. So come as early as possible. Some municipalities will do some of this over Zoom. Not all of them, but some of them will meet you over Zoom, or meet you when you come on your pilot trip in February, and they'll say, yes, it seems like such and such school and such class is appropriate. In some cases, particularly if you already have a lease or a document stating that this is my address in Beit Shemesh, this is my address in Manana, et cetera, they may save a spot in the class for you. But you must get here as quickly as possible, because you cannot find a school placement until you come to the Vadati Fyun. The Vadati Fyun, that placement committee is made up of psychologists from the school system, somebody from the special education system, there are parent groups in all cities, and they want to make sure that everything is done properly, somebody from the Ministry of Education, you, and if you like, I can accompany you to this meeting as well. And you, even though there's a whole committee, you have a very strong voice in terms of what you think is appropriate. And so if you visited a school and you think that that's the good placement for you, they will be listening. And I have to tell you that I go to a lot of placement committee meetings, a lot of vadati fyun in different parts of the country, and I know that they are always on the lookout for the best placement for your child. And they're always very, very attentive to what you have to say. And you have a very strong voice in what the placement is and in describing your child. So that's the good news. Okay. This is very, very critical. A very prominent question, a question that's asked me over and over again, is like, how's my child going to make it if they don't speak Hebrew? A child won't speak Hebrew, can't speak Hebrew. So I say, from the minute you decide to make Aliyah, even if you're not sure exactly when you're going to make Aliyah, you've got to really imbue your household with Hebrew in games, and Hebrews in books, and Hebrew in videos, so that Hebrew becomes a familiar sound, and that it's something that the children, you and the children will have. They're not going to have the same Hebrew as they're going to get in their school, and it's not the same usage. But we need, you and I need, when we go into a store or wherever we go to a government agency, we try to, navigate the system there. But it is very, very helpful, and they will pick up words. And in addition, I gave you here a couple of links to a couple of user-friendly, fun types of activities that you can find online. I only gave you a couple. You can probably, Google it and find a lot more than I've given you. That's my overview. That's the information that I think that you need to be able to understand how the system works, who's going to be taking care of your child, the team members, the government agencies, and what I need. The good news is, and I know this because I've helped a lot of people make Aliyah with children with special needs. The good news is that we have a very good educational system here, and I would say a very good special education system here, which works for most children. I will tell you if I think that you shouldn't come down with your child. I'd like to add to that to say that when you're telling me, or you're explaining to me what your children's needs, I'm going to inevitably ask you, do you have any other children? And even if those children don't need special education, keep in mind that you need to be on the lookout for good schools for that child as well, for those children as well. Because sometimes if you're coming in Aliyah with a 17-year-old who's going to be a junior in high school, I'm going to tell you that's a tough time to come in Aliyah. Is not to reconsider it because of your child with special needs or the child who needs special education, but because it's for the other children as well. And the good news is that, as I said before, all these services are available in almost every municipality. If it's not in that municipality, they have a responsibility to bus to transport your child to a place that it is, that there is a school that's appropriate for your child, and that people like you have made Aliyah and have succeeded. That's the good news. And I hope that you feel now just a little bit more confident and that you say, I can do that. With a little help from your friend, I'm here to help you. The people at Nefesh B'Nefesh are here to help you as well. If you have any questions and answers, there's a place there's a designated spot for you to ask those questions. Those are questions the general questions. And again, if you have anything specific that I can help you with, then please write to me at chanazweiter@gmail.com, and we'll set up a time to speak, and I'll try to help you with that as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Please feel free to contact me at answers@nbn.org.il.